surprise face emoji because that's kind of how I feel about this IM. I'm surprised with it. I'm enjoying it way more than I thought I would enjoy it. So let's talk about it here. Metal faceplate feels like a good quality shell. I kind of wish there was a filter on that nozzle, but nitpicking. It is a little wide, but like it hasn't bothered me with fit and comfort. So yeah, I actually have no issues with fit and comfort. Ear hooks are pretty comfortable. Cable is well behaved. Only complaint with the cable really is I hate right angles. I bloody hate right angle cables. Yeah, I have little to complain about when it comes to the build. I kind of like the all black look too, honestly. It's kind of my thing. How do they sound? I've been sitting here for a very long time, essentially hype checking myself because I really dig these. The bass is a sufficient amount. It's not a lot. I would prefer more, but it's sufficient. The mids are chef's kiss. Just chef's kiss. So well represented. So good. You get into the upper mids and treble. It's a little less ear gain than most IEMs I've tried, at least in this price bracket. And to me, it sounds great. It sounds awesome. I like that representation. I maybe prefer a little bit more, just a smidgen more, but I also prefer a little bit more bass. I'm just kind of that type of guy, I guess. But like overall, I would call this very neutral, just extremely neutral. And then you get into the treble, and the treble is maybe not as airy as I would like, but it's smooth. It's smooth, and I don't get fatigue from this. I don't have issues with this for long listening. And that's the thing. I can listen to this for hours with no fatigue. It's probably why I like it so much, actually. Let's get into like comparing it here. Talk about some songs. Fly Me to the Moon by Frank Sinatra. The overall tonality, it sounded the best on the HEXA. The tuning in general, the bass was where it was supposed to be. The variations is like too bass boosted for that. The Z12, I think the Z12 kind of inched out the Hexa there, and on this song specifically because of the air and the treble. It gave the cymbals this energy that was very enjoyable for that Frank Sinatra song. The rest of the tonality I'll give to the Hexa though. It's just the treble I like the Z12 for that song. I liked it quite a bit actually. Overall tonality though, I'll give it to the Hexa. Yeah, the bass just kind of threw variations off. 1111 by Arkells. Around the 1 minute 33 mark to 1 minute and 41 seconds, there's a lot going on. It's really busy. Bass guitar is easy to lose there. With the variations, I couldn't track it easily. I had to listen very deep to hear the bass guitar. And that's like a super bass boosted set, but the way that it tucks and how it does its thing, I had a hard time kind of focusing on the bass. The Z12, I could hear it, but I had to focus. Like I had to really focus for it. The Hexa, I hardly had to focus. I could hear it. It was plain as day. There it was. Didn't have to like listen in. And that's valuable to me as someone who listens to music and plays music by ear. I listen to a song. I have to interpret it into my brain and like put it out into an instrument. This is good for that. I found the instrument separation is sufficient. It maybe lacks when it comes to like the trail ends of tones. When it comes to like that kind of thing, but like I'm nitpicking. I'm nitpicking technicalities in an $80 set that honestly stacks up to things that are much more expensive than it. So, but yeah, this was the best set when it came to tracking bass guitar, and that's kind of cool. Timeless does it pretty well. This maybe does it a little bit easier though for tracking. American Idiot by Green Day. The Hex had the best natural tone and timbre. This is something that like, man, I grew up on that album. I like that I grew up on that album. I grew up on that song. That's like one of the songs that like almost all of my bands would cover, at least, like just for fun. And it sounded the most natural on the Hexa. Like the way that instruments are represented in the mix, the way that everything kind of was tuned, it just came off way more natural in the Hexa than anything on this table. Like pick an IEM, it was better than it for this song. The Z12, a little bit too much cymbal energy. It was unnatural. So like the opposite criticism of Fly Me to the Moon, it was too much there. The Hexa, just right. Variations, I think that the treble was awesome with this, but the bass threw out the tonal balance completely. That was not natural bass guitar representation, and it was, yeah, especially when you're A-Bing them, sounds really weird. But the treble, treble, really good. Freedom by Rage Against the Machines. Hexa again had the most natural tonality, the best tuning and tone and timbre to my ears. It came off the most natural. Now to your ears, that might be different. But to my ears, this came off just everything is where it's supposed to be. Like tuning wise, I have zero complaints. I think my biggest complaint when it came to like these last few songs would be the bass guitar texture. It does feel like it is lacking some bass guitar texture, and it does seem like it's lacking a bit of guitar texture. It's a word that doesn't mean much to many, but it means something to some, so I'm going to use it. That's where I feel like this is kind of lacking, is the texture of like these stringed instruments, specifically bass guitar and guitar. But otherwise, it sounds the most natural out of everything on this table. The King and I by Eminem. That's where the Variations was really fun. It has a crazy bass presence, and it was just fun. It was a blast. And when it's like, it's not a, bass guitar focused mix, I really enjoyed the Variations. It was maybe my favorite on the table for this song. That being said, I still think the Hexa was the most natural. It was the most natural replay. And it had the least amount of, wait, what was that? Huh? What? Things didn't like just pop out at me, which is a good thing. Because normally I'm listening to a set and something pops out to me, and I'm like, oh yeah, this set, I like listening to bass guitar on it, or this set, I like listening to drums on it. Nothing's really popping out to me. It's just a good all-arounder to my ears. Blue Jeans by Old Dominion. This is one of those songs again where guitar tone, I prefer planar. I prefer planar guitar tone and bass guitar tone, but I prefer this tuning. Pros and cons. So it's like one of those things where the Hexa is just, it's so smooth and enjoyable to me, and like it's not overly peaky in any way, and yeah, I find it smooth. I think that's maybe the best way I can explain this. It is neutral, which comes off as bright to many people. Even myself, it comes off a little bit bright, but it's not. I don't think it actually is bright. I think this is a very neutral representation. I'm just used to a lot of bass. Yeah, it just comes down to I kind of wish it had that little bit more growl, a little bit more texture with the bass guitar and guitar, but I have no complaints with the tuning. Like if I listening to all of these songs and A-Bing them back and forth, and I listened to them multiple times, and I was time stamping and going back and forth, like replay that, replay that. I'm just so impressed. I'm so impressed with this Hexa. I didn't love the Truthear Zero. Like, it's a fine IEM, but it's just so energetic in the upper mids that I found it painful, like actually painful to listen to. I could listen to this all day. Maybe not as loud as I would listen to something like a Variations or even like a Timeless or even a Z12. I can't listen to it as loud. But oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. It's just the way that music is represented. It is super enjoyable to me. I skip I skipped very little tracks with this IEM. I'm just find a playlist, shuffle, and go. Variations, I'll skip probably a good 70% of my tracks. The Z12, I'll skip a good 40% of my tracks. Timeless, I'll skip about 50% of the tracks. Zero, I'll skip like a ton of tracks. It's not even funny. P1 Max, I can listen to P1 Max for a while, without skipping a whole lot. This I could listen to, yeah, all day and not skip tracks and be fine with it. I don't find this fatiguing. I don't find this too much. I think others might, especially if they are bass heads. And I even consider myself a bass head, which is kind of funny. I still like other representations of music. Yeah, I think my biggest criticism is the texture. That if I were to be like, this is the deal breaker, it's not super textured. That I think that's the deal breaker here. Maybe the tuning if you're not into this style of tuning, if you're not into like a neutral tuning. But yeah, I think if I were to find a deal breaker, it's that this can't compete with planars when it comes to like the texture separation and that kind of string tone. It can't compete. But for everything else, HEXA, all day, every day. I love this. I will be implementing this into my listening quite often, actually. My Woo and my Olina SE are currently on loan. This is probably what I'm going to be listening to until I get those back. And that's kind of saying a lot because that means I like it better than almost all of my IEMs except the two that I currently have lent out. Wow. Good job, Truthear. Whoever tuned this, awesome job. Props. Seriously, thank you. I want more of this. I want more stuff like this. I seriously can't wait to see what else comes out of this company because if they're doing stuff like this and if they can keep this type of stuff and quality up, they're gonna take over the game. That is some awesome bang for buck. So yeah, the Truthear Hexa. If you have any questions, leave them down below. I don't want to hype this. Oh man, I hyped it so much, but like, if you hate this IEM and you buy it and you hate it, I'm sorry. Just watch a bunch of other reviews first. Don't just take my word for it. Don't just be like, oh hey, this guy likes it. He's a musician. It must be good. No, don't take my word for it. Go watch a bunch of other reviews. Get a community understanding of what this is and then make your choice. Like once you have like a community understanding, you hear the pros and the cons, people go, now it's too much here. Oh no, it's not enough there. And you weigh that out, you'd be like, okay, yeah, okay, whatever. But under $100, like the Olina SE is maybe my other recommendation. This is like, this feels like a no brainer. Yeah. Like, comment, whatever. Until next time.